Today I've come to the absolute middle of nowhere. I'm in a city called Kimitsu in Chiba. And I came here today actually on my way to another place that I thought looked really interesting. And I made a very long journey, and it turned out that place I was going to closed down like at 3 o'clock. It's really unexpected. So basically I'm just, I have nothing to do out here now. I'm in the middle of this town that's pretty much just residential stuff all around, right? Really nothing to do. Kind of as a hobby of mine, I like coming out into the middle of nowhere anyway. Just take a random train line that I've been seeing forever and like, oh, I wonder what this faraway station, if you go to the train station, you'll see, it's the so-and-so line bound for, than just the name of some faraway place. And so I like going and checking out those faraway places and seeing what they're like. I hadn't even heard of this place before at the train station because I had to take 2 train transfers to get here. For me, a lot of the fun of traveling to the middle of nowhere is taking these nice train rides where I can sit for a long time and just look out over the scenery. I typically ride on the green car, which is where you pay extra and you get a guaranteed seat and you're facing forward instead of sideways like on a typical Japanese train car. It's not the Shinkansen or anything, but basically just a better way to ride if you're going to be riding on a normal train. The problem with that when coming here though is that this place in general, the route to get here was actually just really ugly. There weren't any hills or forests or anything. It was just some barren fields, which of course is to be expected at this time of year, but some barren fields and then just houses just like this for, miles and miles, or I guess kilometers and kilometers, the whole way here. So it was actually probably one of the least enjoyable train rides I've ever had as far as scenery goes. Oh, that person has a Japanese flag out because it's a national holiday today. Or I don't know if that's the reason they do. It's pretty typical to put out the flag on a national holiday, but I would say most residences don't do that. That's mainly just government offices and stuff that will put out the flag. So maybe that person's a real patriot or something. The crazy thing about coming out to places like this is that it's all residential. There are so few businesses amongst these places. Of course you've got your convenience stores and you've got one very large department store, with a supermarket, some electronics and everything. I just went to the one, it's right near the station here. And I went to that and it has basically everything you would need to live around here, except for furniture. But yeah, I don't know what anybody living out here would do as a job. There's probably only really small jobs to do. This is coming from me who lived in the rural US, so there were no jobs around there, but I guess the thing about that was it wasn't nearly as concentrated as here, so it feels very strange for a place to be this big without having any large commercial buildings, it seems like. I'm looking right beside me and there's look at that. That's a huge, towering, what is that? How many stories is that? At least 10 stories, right? At least 10 stories over there. The population is just so concentrated in these residential areas, but then not a place to work. I'm sure there's some, and maybe it's just more people drive to get to the bigger cities, similar to what they do in the US. If you're going to be walking around like this, taking the train to places, I would recommend somewhere other than Chiba. Maybe it's just because it's so close to the ocean, but Chiba just seems very flat and, like I was saying, boring with no hills and a very minimal forest from what I've seen anyway. I guess I am taking the train line along the coast. It's along the coast, but you can't see the ocean or anything from this train line, so I guess I kind of doomed myself in that respect. One of the reasons that everything, all of the residential areas, are so highly concentrated in Japan is because of the mountainous terrain. Historically people couldn't, nowadays I'm sure you could build closer to the mountains if you wanted to with all the equipment we have, but historically people have kind of been pushed into valleys and along the coastlines and places that were generally just more flat so they could build, and I think that really contributed to the way houses are all grouped together. Of course, along with that limited flat land comes the fact that, it's more efficient to group your houses together so you can utilize the limited flat land that you have to grow crops. And I don't think I'm using the word flatland right, because I think that's an, actual technical term, but I just literally mean land that's flat. I do enjoy coming to a place like this though, even if the scenery's not great, for a couple of other reasons. Look at that pup. You don't see that much in the city, that big of a dog. Even though it's all paved like this, the air quality is much better here than where I live in Tokyo. And so coming here, I can really take in deep breaths and not, worry about cancerous fumes getting into my lungs, even if I'm walking right here beside the road. Oh, look, you don't see that much in Japan. Most of the times you go to these little parks and they're all being really old, but that is like brand new. I mean, they're still making it. It's good to see that at least somewhere they're putting up new parks. Looks like a lot of these houses along here are newer. So, like to see it. Like to see new families coming up in this country that in general has a declining birth rate. I'm glad to see stuff like that. When I come out here, I like to ponder what my life could be if I lived outside of the city. I don't think I can ever go back to being far from the city, honestly. There's just too much stuff to do that's available to do in the city that here it just requires a car. I hate life that requires a car, to be honest with you. And I mean, I like driving. I love going on long drives, but to be forced to do that just feels so wrong to me. And that's why I would never want to be outside of this big city again. That being said, maybe not in Tokyo, but just outside of Tokyo or something is kind of the sweet spot for me. I do like thinking about it though. Coming out here, seeing a little bit more nature, kind of reminded of what life was like back in the US for me. Even though, I mean, this is still super urban for me. I mean, where I was at, there were tons of roads that weren't paved. I wish we could make the conveniences of city life work for everyone though. Unless you have a lot of money, coming out and living in a place like this is much more viable to start a family than living near the city. I'd like us to make, population centers that are, like Tokyo or in Tokyo, but have them be affordable for everyone. I mean, if you want to raise a family, you kind of need a detached house like this. And I'm not saying that on some kind of, principle of self-determination or something. I'm saying they don't make condos big enough anymore for families. I was like 70 square meters is what I see. I mean, a ton of condos are even under 70 square meters, and it's just really tough to have a family in that. The funny thing is, you'll see a lot of older condos in or around Tokyo that are much larger than that. They used to make them larger, but my guess is with the decreasing population, the condo sizes have been shrinking as well. And of course, they're getting more expensive from overseas investors. Eventually, if Japan wants Japanese people to be able to live in Tokyo, they're going to have to probably clamp down on overseas investment because, these places are just too attractive of an option for overseas investors or people that just want a vacation home. Specifically Chinese, being so close to China and having a lot of very wealthy people from there wanting to get their money out of an oppressive country. Japan's a very attractive option, and so that's been driving up the price. And then with the weaker yen, of course, that's been driving up the prices of places in Tokyo. So I think the long-term goal for civilization should be keeping places like Tokyo that have a great quality of life, keeping those places affordable to all people. I mean, it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that like cars, this great technology, have been turned around, and now it's kind of a luxury to not have to use a car. I mean, even in the US, right? In New York, and in some places in California, you can get around without owning a car, whereas once a car was like, I mean, I guess cars are still a status symbol, but whereas once cars were this great leap forward for mankind, now it's holding mankind back quite a bit, I think, actually. well, maybe not holding them back, but it's sure making their life shittier. I really want the car lobby to lose all their power in the US. I think one way we could start to make the car lobby lose their power in the US is by, you know, dropping these stupid archaic ban on imports from overseas. You know, ostensibly they were created to ensure safety, but the real reason they were created is to protect the US auto industry. I think we should open that back up, drastically drop the price of cars, although I guess that would have the opposite effect, wouldn't it? Maybe in the short term that would have the opposite effect. Everyone has an abundance of cars. I don't know what to do about that, actually. But it would, you know, decrease the amount of money that car manufacturers in the US have to influence things. Of course, I think maybe at this point the influence they need to exert is fairly minimal. I mean, at this point, most everyone's bought into the car culture. I leave this up to the viewer. This is an exercise for the viewer. What can you do to decrease the need for cars in your country? But as it is right now, you know, I have to earn a high salary to live around Tokyo. And if I want to retire there, I have to, you know, earn a high enough salary to be stashing away money while buying a big enough house to have a family. And then you have the whole thing of, if the market just keeps going up, you know, people don't want to sell land in the first place. They would rather just rent it out in perpetuity, which is not good for, you know, people wanting to eventually retire, because now they've got to have their retirement paying this huge bill instead of having a house paid off. I've really gotten off topic here, sorry, but I just was kind of letting my thoughts flow freely. Did I just come by here? Oh no. I want to say thank you to everybody that's subscribed lately and also come over to the Discord. I'm sorry I can't participate in the Discord more. I've been super busy lately, but I like seeing what you guys are talking about. And I'll jump in every now and then when I have something to say or someone mentions me. But I really appreciate this community we've been making. I think there's a lot of helping each other out in it. That's something I want to contribute more to. Going forward. Anyway, let me know what you guys like doing on your day off or a day to unwind. It's kind of a weird holiday because it's in the middle of the week. It's Tuesday right now, and Monday was a work day. Tuesday is this holiday, and then tomorrow's back to work, and I have to go into the office tomorrow actually, so it's kind of a weird placement for a holiday. That's why I thought, just get outside of the city for a bit, unwind, and just take it really slow today. But what do you all like doing? Is there any place you like going? I think this serves the same purpose for me as, when I took a drive back when I was in the US. I would take a drive just to random locations and take it really slow. So what do you all like doing? Let me know. I'm going to be trying to put out some content where I go to actually interesting places in Japan soon, and that's where I was actually going to show you today, but I'll have to try again and get that place on camera later. So please be looking forward to that. Subscribe if you're not yet. Because just as I turned off my camera, I met this old lady that waved at me, and I waved back at her, took out my headphones. She started talking to me and asking me a bunch of questions like, where are you from? What are you doing here? But she asked a lot of weirdly personal questions, like, are you alone? And I told her, about my family, and it's like, oh, you got left by your family today on your day off? They didn't come with you? And it was really weird. It felt really hostile at first, but then she started hitting on me, telling how cool I was, but not just that, because you get that a lot. Oh, you're tall and look cool and stuff, but it was really weird. She kept talking about how she wanted a boyfriend because her and her husband aren't getting along, and we talked about where she came from and all kinds of stuff, and it was really awkward. She asked to shake my hand, but then she held on for an awkward amount of time and stuff like that. And multiple times she said how she wants a a boyfriend and asking if I could introduce someone to her. It was just very strange. It made me feel very uncomfortable because, you know, if you're just lightly doing that, that's one thing, but like a ton of times, yeah, it was really weird, but it was interesting. At least, you know, I got to talk to someone out here. I don't usually come to these places and get to talk to someone, so. Oh, of course I told her that too. I was telling her, yeah, I thought you were like trying to interrogate me because I looked like some scary guy walking around the neighborhood, because I circled back around that place a couple times. Not on purpose, I just didn't know where I was going. Actually, it's kind of funny that that happened because I've been thinking for a while, I want to go around and talk to like Japanese old people and ask them about how things used to be in Japan, or how things were when they were growing up and stuff like that. I've been wanting to do that kind of series for a while because, you know, everyone online, they just go around interviewing people in Japan, but they interview like, well, one, either foreigners, or two, Japanese, like really good looking young girls or something, but they never go around interviewing old people. And some old people have some interesting stories here to tell. Like I've heard stories of, you know, you always think of Japan having this clean image, right? But I've heard stories of like Japanese corruption among fire departments and police stations and stuff, and how things used to be where they would take bribes. And I've heard all kinds of that stuff from Japanese old people, and so I think it'd be really cool to tell about how Japan used to be. I can't believe I missed that interaction. I really should have had my camera still going, at least in my pocket or something. I'd like to get a little, you know, one of those little square cameras and just clip it on my bag strap here so that I could be filming no matter what interactions I have. And then of course I'd take their permission afterwards, or if they didn't want to give permission, then I could delete it. But would you guys be interested in that? Would you be interested in me going around and interviewing old people? I mean, I know you'd probably say yes, because it is kind of an interesting topic, but I wonder how many people would actually click on that. I'd have to make some very interesting titles and thumbnails for that, right? Because, you know, the reason people click on the like good-looking Japanese girls and stuff is because they're interested and they're attracted to them, you know. I guess I could get a bunch of cute old people. Look at this. Look at this. This is not the kind of thing they do in Tokyo or Chiba, where it's closer to Tokyo. Look, they just don't even, I mean, they just make you a little path down here, because there's a path down there to walk, but there's just not being upkept. This is really cool though, actually. Look at that, there's nice flowers. Do you think I'm gonna trip? I'm gonna trip going down this, almost guarantee it. Don't you think? Because I'm almost guaranteed to trip. And also, frankly, we have way better riversides more towards Tokyo. I mean, they're not as wild as this, so if you wanted something wild, I guess this is the perfect place to come down to. I think I'm gonna turn back, go back to the station, see if I don't get some other random ladies hitting on me. Gosh, I wish you could have seen it. But she was nice, and she came from Nagasaki a long time ago to be a wife. She came all the way here to be a wife. Interesting, right? Could you imagine when she came here all these years ago? And I think, did she say she was on her second husband? I don't know, but could you imagine when she came here all these years ago just to be a wife? Before the internet, probably before, I don't know about before phone calls, but when phone calls were much less common, to come to be someone's wife back in those times would be insane. You probably never go see your family again, at least for a couple decades. Maybe you would, I don't know. Thanks for watching this extremely random vlog. Subscribe, tell me what you want to see more of.